Disclaimer, classes in Trove are built very much the same, so if you have watched any of my other build guides, then there is quite a lot of things that will repeat itself, but you can bypass those parts by the timestamps in the description. Also, my guides are always updated, so if I was to stop doing YouTube, those guides would go away. No misinformation will be out there, and I will always update my videos/guides if something major happens to the game content. If something minor changes, it will be in the description. Hello guys, Wahoo here, back on another video. This time around, we are doing a build guide for
Vanguardian.
Yeah, so the intro is going to be very much the same as if you've seen it before. You can skip ahead to maybe the demo or something else. But yes, the intro is going to be different just with which class we are going to do. Basically just telling you, if this is your first time watching one of these build guides, what you can expect from the video. So as you can see right here, I did make it into chapters, also indicated by timestamps, which is in the description or on the video. And first we are going to start with a 5-minute demo, just showcasing the class, what abilities do it have. Kind of just showing off, not going into detail what they basically do, but just showing them off, and maybe that will interest you at making one of these classes one of your mains. After that, we are going to do a quick look at overall stats for every single class. So for this class that you're watching right here, we're going to do it for that one, and also in general we are going to talk about stats. For example, like crit hit and crit damage. That's going to be some generalization right there. And then we are going to move into gear and everything there's on the gear page. That is, of course, banners, allies, head, face, weapon, and also rings and food, emblems, flasks, so on. So everything there is in the gear page, we are going to go over that one as well. Then we are going to cover gems. Mostly we're going to cover the empowered gems, of course. We're also going to talk a little bit about the smaller ones, but mostly we are going to go into the big empowered ones, so the big gems, that is. And then for lastly, of course, as you can see right here on the screen, we're also going to talk about the star chart, or the talent tree as I basically call it. So that's what the intro was all about, just letting you know what the chapters are and how it is going to work with the timestamp. So you can skip ahead if there's something you already watched. You can skip ahead to doing that, or you can basically watch it all if you feel like you want to do that. But that was the intro. Now we can jump into the demo. Alright guys, let's take a deeper dive into the VANGUARDIAN, and first let's start out with the abilities. So with the abilities, a little bit different than most of the classes, but very fun. They have done a lot of changes to the classes, made them definitely more interesting, and I might as well just start with the ultimate, because the ultimate is that you swap from melee mode to range mode. It does say sort of range mode and leap backward and all that stuff, but basically what it does is, as you can see right here, you leap backwards and then you are in range mode. And we can't really show you how it does that when there's a little bit of a cooldown on it, but we can start with the ranged abilities. So what it does is that it launches a ball. You can see here on my left, this shoots a ball out into there, and oh, finally, okay, I was afraid that I was gonna destroy all that, but I didn't. And then the number one is just you get some, you know, some attack speed from all of this, so your auto attack just shoots way faster, as you can see right here. It does have a long duration on it, which is really nice, but yeah, now it's off, and you can see I shoot. I don't know if you can really see it, but I do shoot slower than I usually do, as you can see right here. Energy yourself, and then increases also your damage and attack speed. I actually didn't know it increases the damage, but I know it was with the attack speed, but damage as well. So that's very nice indeed. So yeah, plasma, just that takes your energy and shoots and maybe destroys your club world almost, but not this time either. But and then for, of course, with the ultimate, you go into dash forward this time, but then you also pull enemies in for a little duration, and then you go into melee mode. As you can see now, I'm just auto attacking right here with this one as well. So with the melee mode, you use the laser beam eyes. You can see a laser beam eyes here. It do also, I seem like it does make damage around here, so I think I'm kind of destroying the blocks. I don't really want to destroy it all because I don't want to redo it all, but you do the laser eyes. These are some of the best damage for the VANGUARDIAN. Usually people use it as melee, that's at least how I use it. You can use it ranged as well, but it's sort of ranged anyways with the laser beam eyes, and they do a lot of damage as well on the laser. And also when you do have it in melee mode, you can also use your number one, which is going to give you your movement speed. I think it also gives you attack speed, or just damage around you, damage resistance to people or the enemies or you around you. But you basically, what I do is that I use them, you probably saw it from the demo if you did, but usually just hit the number one ability when it's off cooldown like that, and then I do enough damage to just auto attack all of it down. Again, if you hit the ultimate, you are going to switch back into range mode, and then you have those as well. For your passive, basically you can glide in the air. If I go up here, I do have some wings on, but yeah, you can do it, you know, with the wings. Of course, you needed some wings to fly, of course. I was about to say you didn't need wings, but that's not true. You need wings, of course, to glide. But when you then fall down and hit the ground, and I'm not going to do that because we just talked about it, it is going to destroy the, you know, the blocks around you. Also destroys, what's it called, dungeons as well. Not completely, like Superman style, where you fly completely through it all, right, and all the way to the dungeon. But it, of course, the first blocks you hit is going to destroy those and do that. So that's basically the passive. So it doesn't really do anything other than doing that, you know, sort of shockwave and destroying the blocks. That's basically what it does. So that was the abilities. You basically, you can also be in range if you want to do so, but I feel like melee is the best, at least that's how I feel. I usually don't switch around. I usually just be in melee mode and just kind of destroy things like that, but it's really up to you, and they might also change in the future that ranged feels better or just do more damage. They might buff the numbers for that. It might also right now be much better, but it basically is best, but I would say whatever feels best for you, if you want to be ranged or you want to be melee, that's really up to you what you want to do in that sense. But the thing is, we should talk about stats. And of course, we are a physical damage character. We use his claws, actually. That was the first time our fists. This is the first time we introduced Fist when we got the VANGUARDIAN, so not that too long ago. It's actually been used more and more classes now, well, the part which we are going to talk about next time. But stats, we are a physical damage character, so you want as much physical damage as you can possibly produce, and then you want some energy regen as well. Not too much, you get a bunch of it from dragons. Of course, I have every dragon, but so this is the energy regen you would have. I do have some on my fist, as you can see, a little bit of energy regen right there. I don't have anything on my ring. I thought I had some on there, but this is what I have with a little bit on a fist 3 for energy regen, and you can sort of see how much it kind of takes up right there. You can see I can shoot pretty many, I feel like, and it goes up pretty fast still. But if you want some more, you can definitely get some more if you want to do so. But I would not skimp out on the attack speed. The attack speed is very, very nice for the Vanguardian for sure. So you want to look for that attack speed as well. And around that 100% crit hit, I'm 40% over that 100% crit hit that we need. So of course you want to scale that down to be around 100%. If you're a little bit over, it's okay. If you're a little bit under, it's also okay, but try to at least be over, because then you get the full effects of your critical damage, and your critical damage just do so much more damage. That's where you see the big numbers, because you crit. And if this is not at 100%, sure, 99% is still sort of 100%, but there's still that 1% where you're not doing it. So, but critical damage is one of the most critical stats, so that you can also get simultaneously with the physical damage. And attack speed is nice as well, but I wouldn't go too crazy with it. Movement speed is also sort of what you sacrifice if you don't get attack speed. But if you are on melee, you do have a movement speed right here. There's also a gem you really should get as well if you're using melee, and that gives you movement speed as well. So I would not go sacrifice too much movement speed, also because there are other classes in the game that does speed farming a lot better. So I wouldn't go with this one. I would rather go with, you know, the Dino Tamer or the, you know, Vanguardian, not Vanguardian, sorry, the Near Ninja for speed farming. And then basically you also want to get as much light as you can. It's just as much as you can. There's not really any cap. There's really point. The only point there is with all of this is, again, you do want to hit that 100%, because those 40% I'm over is not going to benefit me in any way. But the more light I get, the more critical damage I'm getting, the more physical damage I'm getting, the more damage I'm also going to do. And attack speed, again, is very nice, but I wouldn't go all out on it. But I would rather go attack speed than I would go movement speed here again, and then maybe throw in a few energy regen here and there. In the future, we're probably going to get more dragons that are going to have energy regen on them. Usually that happens just randomly, right? So at some point we're going to have so much energy regen, it's not really needed on your gear at all. As I said, I only have it on my fist. But with that said, we could move into our gear, and we're going to start with the hat again. I went with attack speed, I went with critical damage, so those two are a given. You can also, again, go with the movement speed if you really want to, but I would love another choice than, of course, the magic find. You could also go with some max health percentage here if you want to do that instead of the magic find. But critical damage and attack speed, that's what you want if you want to do more damage. Movement speed is just kind of moving around a little bit faster. If, of course, your Vanguardian is your most favorite class to play around on, sure, the movement speed would be nice, but again, I don't want to gimp out on that attack speed either. So we go onto the fist, and of course we want some critical damage on it as well. If we want some critical hit, if you're really missing, you can play around with that as well. Also with some movement speed as well is also a possibility here. You can see there's also some energy regen. I would actually prefer energy regen actually on this one instead of the magic find. If that was a possibility as well, I would go with that instead actually. But the critical damage here is really only what you're looking for. It doesn't really matter where it ends up. It doesn't matter if it's the first or the last. And when I see first, that's of course not the physical damage or the light. That's not changeable. But moving on to the face, of course you want here some critical damage, and here you want physical damage. That's finally something we can actually use in that fourth slot. So physical damage is absolutely necessary. Again, with the attack speed, go movement speed or attack speed, but you need physical damage here, and you need critical damage as well. You can try to get the the critical damage, as I have it right here, as the third stat, because then you can change around just the fourth and the fifth stat so as you want sometimes, because maybe you want to change it, but it's not second stat rework or second stat, of course, reroll week. That's what I had to say. And those critical damage is very nice to have. So maybe if you don't want to change it too much, you can have it right here, but it doesn't matter. You can just have to wait till that week comes around. But the point is, as long as you have the critical damage and you have the physical damage, it's all good. So let's move on to the ring. I have magic find on my ring, basically only because I want the highest ring I could have. and I got a level 2 ring on this one, lucky enough. You know, just making level 1 boxes, getting a level 2 is very nice. But of course you want a crystal 4 ring if you can get one. Doesn't really matter the stats because the physical damage and the light on it is going to be the same. It's only the third stat that's going to vary, and it doesn't really matter which one you get. Maybe if you do get a crystal 4 ring, for example, if you get a level 3 ring and it has like, you know, the third stat that you really want, and then you get a fourth one with critical hit, but then you're going to be way over with the critical, critical hit, right? Maybe you want to look into using the third one instead of the fourth. It does have more physical damage, the fourth, and maybe you can find somewhere where you can take out some critical hit and then use the level 4 ring, but don't worry too much about what the level is. You just want to try to get to that level 4 ring. And again, the most important is just the physical damage and the light on it, the third stat. If it's going to be critical hit and you're going to be, I think it's like 4% or something like that, you're going to get from a level 4 ring. So, or maybe it's 6%, but the point is if you're going to be 106%, it's okay. It doesn't really matter too much. You can play around with it on your gems and such, and you're just going to have way much critical damage when you do get to that point. Moving on to the banner, of course, you want, not this one, but you do want of course, your 10 banner, as we usually know with that one. It doesn't really matter what the third and the fourth stat is. You can go with some movement speed, you can go with some flash charges if you want to do so. The most important thing is, of course, the light on it and also the physical damage on it. And you can, if you didn't know, you can actually, if you get your banner. I'm just gonna take it off right here. And if your banner, if you put something on that you didn't really want to have, you're like, oh no, man, I should have put something else on. You know, I don't like movement speed or flash charges. I wanted something different. Sure, you can just loot collect it, and you still get the torch back. The original torch, you do have to get the other materials, the banners and stuff like that, you had to craft it with to get another one. But of course you can get those in Delve again, so it doesn't really matter. But you can't loot collect a torch. So, well, you can't loot collect the original torch, but you can loot collect it, and then you get the torch back, and then you can craft something else on it. You can also move it from being physical damage to being magic damage if you suddenly want to have it on a magic damage user instead, and you don't have a lot of torches like me. I only have one, so I could play around with that one. I do have to craft the materials. Usually people want, one on each, so they then can just play around with it like that. And moving on to the ally, we got the ally, of course. We're gonna go with the Ernie. You can also go with a few others. The star charts are right over here. I know my big face is in the way. These ones are just as good as these ones. Of course, if you want to get something, you can get this one. It does give you some health when you do kill something, also give you a little bit of movement speed, but the stats itself is the same, 400 light and 25% magic physical damage, of course, as we have on the Ernie, but you do get a little bit of a protective shield. So if you have access to both of them, I would definitely go with the Scorpion. You want to go with the Scorpion if you are ranged, I would say, and if you're gonna go melee, you want to go with this one. But the Ernie one is just so much easier. So if you want to go melee, if you want to go ranged, you can definitely also still use the Ernie. It doesn't really matter, but the Scorpion I feel like is better if you are ranged, but it doesn't matter really too much. Ernie is so much easier to get than the Scorpius. As you can see it right here over in the start. I still don't have these because it just takes so long to get through the whole star chart still. So yeah, I haven't got that one, but soon, I hope. But yeah, just go with the Ernie. It's so much easier to earn the Ernie than it is to get the Scorpius here. So just go with this one. Doesn't really matter which one you again pick. We are mostly for the 400 light and the 25% physical damage. That is absolutely insane. I think I can actually go like this. Yeah, I can see I hit not even 300, and then when I equip this one, I go up to almost 300,500. So that's pretty awesome indeed. So, but with that said, let's move on to the flask. We can talk about emblems in a little bit. Let's talk about flask, and we are going with a death-defying flask. You can go with many other flask if you want to do so. You can go with one that actually recovers your charges when you have magic find that triggers, but that kind of requires you to have a bunch of magic find as well. You can also go one that when you have a critical hit, you can actually gain a charge, but if you don't have 100% or over 100% critical hit, it's not going to have 100% chance to give you a chance to get a charge. So it's not like, hey, do you have 100%? You're just gonna gain on your flash charges every time you hit, right? It's like gonna be like flash charge, right? It's not gonna be like that, right? Even if you have 100%, that's not how it works. It only gives you a chance. So let's say you only have a 10% critical hit, right? You're only down there. Then you have a 10% chance to have a chance to get one of these, right? But it is something you can use. I usually tell it to people because it's not something that is super well known, I feel like, in the community, that we do have a one that can give you flash charge back just by hitting things, but it's only on critical hits than getting this one. So the faster you shoot, of course, the better it also becomes. So, but death-defying is so easy to get. You know, you get it from in-game currency in the shop, so it's just so much easier, and you don't have to worry about dying. There's a few mechanics that can kill you, like Dawn the Moon, for example, and also one of the U10 bosses can also defeat you if you want to do so. But there's a bunch of flash you can play around with if you want to do so. But if you do got a death-defying, that's basically what you want to go for. There's really not a lot of other choices to do so. And again, it's so easy to come by, so why not use it? And I just wanted to mention the other ones, but let's move over to emblems, because that's a little bit more of some more fun, I guess I can call it, even though we do have 2 mandatory ones. I say it in every single video, but I'm also going to say in this one because you may not have seen the other ones. But of course, we got the arcane and the martial one. And the martial one is the one we're going to use because that's the physical damage one. It's also from the shop. It's also in-game currency, so it's super easy to get as well. And these are just mandatory on all the classes. So if you are playing a magic damage user, hey, you're going to use the arcane and the martial one for, of course, physical damage. That's why it's right here as the first slot. Doesn't really matter I can make information that the people think that, hey, it's in the first slot, it's going to use it first. No, that's not how it works. But the point is, the emblem, the martial one is just mandatory. There's not really other good options that is as good as this one. So there's other good options, but not as good as this one. So these two are just in a tier for themselves. They're just S tier. But you can go with some other ones as well. There is some fun in there. For example, the Sure Strike one, if you're not 100% critical hit, you can actually do that. And that, of course, worked with the flash we talked about, with VAL we talked about before. If you don't have 100%, then if you pop this one, hey, you maybe have a 100% chance now of a chance to get an emblem. And there's also some allies you can play around with if you want to do so. I wouldn't recommend some of the Berserking and the Vampiric. Those don't really do that much. The Chronomantic is kind of cool as well if you want to cool down on your switch thing, if that's what you want to do roll around with. But it's not really, there's not big cooldowns you want to get down and you really need to have all the time. So yeah, that's really not really amazing, I would say. And then of course you got the Unwielding, which is kind of a nice one because you do get a brief shield that's going to make you invulnerable. And usually how it works is that, you know, let's say you're using Death-defying, right? The boss basically one-shots you, right? Because we're going class cannon, because we have Death-defying. Then basically the boss is gonna hit you, right? And if you don't have the shield, it's gonna proc every single time, right? But let's say you have the Unwielding shield on, it's gonna proc, you know, your shield, and then you're gonna have the Unwielding shield, and then the enemy is gonna hit you again. And usually how long? I think it's only like 2-3 seconds that the emblem is actually working, but in that time, usually, in my opinion, or how I have experienced it, is that it's going to take the next hit that the boss is going to do. So basically, you have double charges depending on how fast the boss, of course, hits. But usually, I feel like when you get hit and then it procs, and then it usually takes another. The shield absorbs the hit, and then it's ready to go again, and then it procs again, and it goes like this. There's no cooldown on the shield. You can basically have the shield on all the time if you want to do so. But of course, it's very limited in the time that it's on. So you're probably going to run out of charge pretty quick if, yeah. So I just want to mention this to people. And then, of course, I use the Bountiful one. That might be one you're wondering, which one am I using? I'm using the Bountiful one because it has a chance of not consuming a charge, which is really, really nice because it actually works on self-use. So when I use it myself, it has a chance of not using it. Let's see if it can. Yeah, you see that then it didn't use, it actually used, it went down to 23, but it kept it at 24 because it actually procced, and it's because I was using it. And it can also use, when it get proc anytime it actually does, it has a chance of not consuming. So you can have actually infinity, I say, charges. If you're lucky enough, you can have infinity charges, because if it procs enough, then yeah. There's probably like an internally cooldown on it that we don't know about, but
I wouldn't say, I'm just putting these up here and saying infinity just to make it sound cooler, right? But in theory, you know, maybe it could work. But yeah, that's why I'm using the bountiful. I just kind of like it because I feel like the other options, I don't really like the ally ones because usually, yeah, they're cool and maybe on boss fights and stuff, but I just feel like when there's not necessarily to use, for example, the chronomantic, for example, or the shield, for example, or the trailblazing if you want to go faster, then I usually feel like the bountiful is just much more fun. So that was all our flask and our emblems. Of course, I used a little bit of food there, and then we can move into our gems. And here is something that we absolutely do need, and that's of course our clash gem. Maybe I should actually face you guys instead of actually just looking at something else. So let me go here into the gems again. So the clash gem is absolutely necessary for that reason that it reduces the cooldown on other you know, abilities and stuff. So again, you could go with the chronomantic, but if you're not going with the clash gem, but I just feel like you can go with the clash gem a little bit easier. So basically when you hit, and then also why attack speed is very nice, but it's gonna be fast enough when you're just hitting. But basically when you hit that, you can see that uppercut I'm doing. That uppercut is gonna reduce the cooldown of my other abilities when I'm hitting something. It's not gonna work while you're just running around. You can see it's not going down now, but when you hit enemies with that third hit, then you are going to get a cooldown reduction on like very slightly. It's not gonna be amazing, but it's gonna be a little bit. And when you're hitting that fast, you are going to do some cool damage. So yes, you want to go with the clash gem, and then you want to go with the pyro disc right here. Pyro disc, you want to go with that one, and that's what I was talking about before. You get some movement speed from the pyro disc when that procs. So being melee as well, that works very well with the Vanguardian. So it also procs on top of the #1 ability. So we can have this one, the pulsing thingy, that moves faster, and the pyro disc at the same time. So you move even faster. Of course, that only works when you have killed an enemy. Of course, the one you can just use whatever you want to. But yeah, the clash gem and the pyro disc, I feel like is super mandatory. You can mandatory also use it for the ranged one, but it just becomes better, of course, when you are melee, because then you also benefit from the circle itself and doing damage as well from that. It's not a crazy damage, but everything helps, right? And then you can go with whatever you want to. Again, I went with a cube here because that, again, I'm melee, so I'm basically going to be in melee range, so everything kind of helps with not getting one shot or, you know, well, I do have the death defying, but it's just everything helps, and, you know, then my flash don't trigger so much. I don't have to find as many, you know, cornerstones to put down my house, and or my cornerstone to put it down there on my base, whatever you call it. And so yeah, shield is pretty nice as well. I do also have the barrier here. I think they actually don't work together, these two actually, but I would also go with something else. That is going to be the battle berserker. If you don't have anything else, of course, you can go with the barrier, but I would, if you don't have this one, for example, you can go with the barrier, but the best option right here is the Battle Berserker. That is the best one. The Vampiric might be a second one, and this one being a third. But the Battle Berserker, just get the Battle Berserker. It's not really other options because the attack speed and the light is amazing. Not so much like the attack speed, but more the light really. But the light is very, very nice, the buff you get from that. But attack speed, you can't really go wrong with it. And for your stats, you want to, of course, go physical damage, critical damage, and physical damage and critical hit and critical damage. Those three you want to go for on all your gems. And then for your cosmic gems, you want to go again physical damage, and you want to go critical damage as well on these ones here. Or maybe you can look into some critical hit if you want to play around with it. And then you want to move all your extra boosts you get on 5, 15, and 5, 10, and 15. Those extra boosts, you want to move it all into light. So these are on the light stat and not on the physical damage or on the critical damage. If you've seen my reforging thing, you can go to the description. I'm talking about it there as well in some of those videos in there. But yeah, move it all into light so you get as much light as you can, because light is not everywhere, where some of the other stats are basically everywhere. So maybe over time, at some point, we're going to have light on everything, so it's not going to be as important, but I just wanted to mention it. If you know, you know, basically, but move everything into the light. But yeah, other than that, you want to play around with the critical hit, and maybe, you know, hopefully one day we can have it instead of just having max health or max health percentage. It could be something else that's more interesting, but yeah, move all your boosts out, of course, critical hit, so you can get down to that closer to that 100% instead of 140 as I have right here. But that was a deep dive into the Vanguardian, but we're not finished yet. We still have to talk about the star chart of the physical damage of a stealth star chart, which is coming up right here.
Alright, so now we got the physical damage part. I don't know if you saw the magic damage one, but the physical damage one looks very much like the magic damage part, because this over here you got, of course, still the critical damage, which there's a lot of great notes over here. You do have to spend 1 point right here, which gives some magic damage to get into here, which I think is a little silly, but that's just basically how it is. But there's a lot of great physical damage notes going through up here. There is a little bit of a note out here. I was kind of debating with myself if I should get out here, because it is a lot of points again going out here. But it does give you 5% magic damage and physical damage. But yeah, it's not super great out here. And that's the same thing if you saw the magic damage part. The green ones means that they're okay notes out here, but you really don't want to go for them, because you can see there's many notes going in there, so it's not really necessary. You can see the other ones, the red ones are sort of like more clumped together, which means that they're just really, really great. And my idea with this was that you go through the magic damage part and then, or critical damage part, and then you can go for the physical damage part first, and then of course the the critical damage part, and then you can go either this way or this way down here. So these sort of the things I would definitely go for a physical damage character. Go through the physical damage, critical damage, and then out here with the light, there's a little bit of light, good light notes out here. Again, also kind of a nice note here. You don't have to go very far, but it gives a little bit of critical damage. But other than that, you don't want to go further through this. There's some nice flask notes, but yeah, flask is not like a permanent. I just feel like the permanent buffs are just a little bit better, because it's going to give you all the time. So if you don't have any flash charges, you know, it's not going to give you the same. So I'd rather go for some you know, hard facts or hard stats, if you can say it like that. So yeah, this is the physical damage part. Again, you can pause the video if you want to see which ones you want to go for. Again, it's just my opinion on which ones you should, you know, at least be aware of. That's it for the video. Click the video on screen that's coming up right now. YouTube thinks you might like it. Also, check out the description for all my ultimate guides that goes into more specific things in Trove. And also hit that like button, would help me out very, very much. Also consider subscribing. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.